Welcome to renttv. So we've kind of addressed a lot of the issues that's going on in Africa, especially with the leaders and the struggle with the powers that be in Europe and the exploitation of a lot of Africans and Africa as a continent, especially with the resources and brain drain and the people, because the people are also resources. And what people fail to realize with Africa is the biggest resource that has been taken and stripped from Africa are the African people. It's not gold, diamonds, or any of these other minerals or anything you think it is. The biggest resource in Africa are Africans. It's the people. But a lot of people don't view people as resources, because you can't even utilize resources without the people. But that's the biggest resource that's been stripped from Africa. It's the people. Every time somebody special, so-called special from Africa pops up, brain drain. They get removed from the continent and taken somewhere else. And all the accomplishments and everything they accomplish outside of that, it gets allocated and given to wherever they're going. Even if it trickles down back to Africa where they're from, it's only a percentage of that really trickles down. The majority of it stays where they're at. So that's the biggest resource that's been stripped from Africa. It's not all this other stuff people are focused on. It's the people. So, and it's very tricky, because to even get Africa to be stable, to get Africa to where it needs to be, you need to keep the resource, the biggest resource there, which is the people. But the people don't want to stay there, because it's almost like they have this mentality where it's like they're chasing other resources outside of Africa, and they want Africa to almost be at a certain level for them to feel like they can be resourceful to Africa, or they can be as much of an asset as they could be. It's almost like they don't view themselves as a resource. They view something else as a resource. But where they're going, the people over there view them as resource, whether they know it or not. On both sides of the coin. You're a resource coming over here. You're a resource going over there. Wherever it is you're going. You're a resource. That's the biggest resource. It's the people. So it's like a tricky situation where it's just like Africa needs to keep the people who are so-called special, their biggest resource, at home. But for some reason, it's hard to do that. And then the minute you spark, and people see that you can be a resource, you get offers. And 9 times out of 10, most people are going to take that offer. And by the time most people think, oh, I'm just going to go over there, do what I need to do, and then I'll come back home and help, or do what I need to do over here, by that time, look at your age. How much of a resource can you be? You're way past your prime. And then another thing I want to speak on are a lot of the so-called leaders in Africa. It seems like they have this complex, right? And don't get me wrong, I understand, I overstand the other side of it too. But let me get this out first. No diddy. It's like they have this mindset where I'm seeing it happening in real time again, right? Where it's just like I see this movement that's going on specifically in West Africa, how a lot of countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Senegal, a lot of especially the French, the countries in West Africa were colonized by France. There's this movement going on where it seems like they're separating themselves from the rule of France, because people think just because colonialism ended, so-called ended on paper, and these so-called countries left, Africans, and countries were made in the country of Africa. They had their flag, national anthem, and all that. They thought that's when colonialism, that's when countries in Africa stopped being colonized. They thought that's when countries in Africa stopped being colonized. So why is it right now all these countries in Africa are separating themselves from France? If it all ended when the so-called left and they claim these countries won their independence, they weren't colonized no more. So why are they still doing all this? They were colonized this whole time. If you look at even countries like Jamaica, that's not a country. I don't even think Canada is a country. A lot of these so-called countries in the Caribbean, they're not even countries. They're not even countries. It's funny when you start realizing majority of the world is still colonized. It's like there's this perception that we're in 2025, we're in the future and all that. We're not in the future, bro. There was never no future, bro. There's this perception that people think like, oh nah, that's the old way of thinking. That's back in the days. That's how people used to think. Nobody thinks like that now. That's a lie, bro. But it's 2025 and there's still so-called countries that's not countries. They're still colonized. Jamaica is still colonized, bro. Look at Vybz Kartel. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be free. That's besides the point. I'm just trying to make a point. The Jamaican government didn't want to necessarily free him. The UK came and override them. Think about that, bro. That means Jamaica is still colonized, bro. Just think about that. That means Jamaica is still colonized, bro. That's what that means, bro. It's the same with Canada. And if you look at a lot of these islands in Asia, America owned most of those islands. Puerto Rico is not really a country. It's colonized by America, bro. You realize that, bro. Nothing changed, bro. It's just this perception where people think we're in the future. We're not in the future, bro. Everything is the same as it was. It's the same system. Everything is the same as it was. Nothing changed, bro. People think because they got phones, there's technology and all that, they really believe we're in the future, bro. But that's just in movies, bro. In reality, bro, there is no future. There was never no future we was in. But it's the same thing we've been in. The same thing we're still in, bro. These countries they're all still colonized. Everywhere that was colonized before is still colonized now, bro. That's a fact. That's a real fact. Everywhere that was colonized was still colonized. It's still colonized now. It's the same thing. That's why you see a lot of these countries in Africa, they're still fighting to be free, bro. And these are countries who claim they celebrate 50 years of independence, 60 years of independence, some of them 70 years of independence, and they're still fighting to have their own currency. You're never independent. You can't be celebrating your independence and at the same time you're fighting a war to get out of the shackles of the people who you claim you got your independence from. What independence? You don't have no independence. You were never independent. It's all a facade just to make people think we're advancing. But we're not advancing as no human race, bro. We're going backwards. We've been going backwards. And every time we do try to advance, there's movements they start some type of movements to make sure to keep everything either how it is or move it back to the past, bro. To make sure we don't advance as a human race, bro. It's something that has never happened. We're not advancing. We've never advanced, bro. They do everything in their power to hold everybody back and hold everything back and keep things how it is, bro. Think about it. Every time something forward thinking comes or someone who's forward thinking comes with ideas or anything that's forward thinking, bro, they stop that shit, bro, immediately. With force. It's war. What does that mean? There should be no advancement, bro. We're not allowed to advance as a human race. We're not allowed to. It's illegal to advance as a human race, bro. This is a fact.
It's a fact. It's something that you're not allowed to do, bro. Except for on a TV show. Oh, you can advance as far. Look at all these TV shows they make. You think it's the future. And that's the thing with media, bro. I keep saying it. Media is the most powerful thing, bro. Media, bro. It controls perception, bro. And if you can control perception, you can control everything, bro. That's how powerful perception is, bro. And it's manipulated like, oh man, that's the most manipulated thing. It's perception, bro. And media is the number one tool. It's not a gun, bro. It's not a gun. It's media, bro. It's not bombs. It's none of that stuff, bro. It's media. That's what it is, bro. And that's why the government is so obsessed with social media right now. They're so obsessed with YouTube. They're so obsessed with all these things because people, especially with the phone. And that's why it's funny how they have the Apple in the back of the iPhone. There were phones that existed before, but Apple, what made Apple different was, and that's why Steve Jobs was like, what he did was so great. What made Apple so special was they made the phone like a computer. Because before, remember what the computer used to be like on the phone? Bro, that wasn't even a computer. That joint looked crazy. But with Apple, you were able to surf. It's one of the first devices where you were able to surf the internet on your phone like it was on a computer. That changed everything, nigga. That put the world in your palms. And on another way of thinking, that's why the apple is in the back of it. It's like you took a bite out of the apple. Even though that could have other meaning, but let's just go with that meaning. That's what made it what it was. That's why Apple, as far as Steve Jobs and him making the iPhone, was so important. That created so many different forms of media, bro. Later down, it trickled down to that. Now there's different perception. People could put their perceptions up. People could give their ideas up. Where you don't have to go tune into these networks that's been put up there for all these years where you didn't have no choice but to listen to their opinions. Now you can find somebody local. You can find somebody who nobody knows or people don't really necessarily know to tell you their opinion. And you might like their opinion, but I'm not saying you agree with it. You just might just like it more than all the other opinions that that was forced for you. Excuse me. All the other opinions that they forced you or try to force you to go with, where there was no. It's funny how they were talking, how they're trying to make it seem like, oh, they don't want WhatsApp or Meta to have a monopoly over the social media platform thing. But in reality, they're doing the same thing. Where the minute media, independent media and all these things start popping up, they get mad. People should be free to choose what they want to listen to. They should be free to do that. That will push you, take your own advice to step your game up. Where now you have to be the best of the best so they can listen to you. But that's not how these people think or work. You know what I'm saying? That's not how they think or work. So in turn, what they do is they try to control things like Instagram, your visibility. Oh, this person is saying this and that. They create things like cancel culture. All these things where it's just like, all these things are popping up. They're giving all these different opinions that we don't really like those opinions. And it seems like people are gravitating more towards those opinions. Now we got to shut that down or go and find a way to either try to like buy that person. And if that person doesn't want to sell their soul to them, they find other ways to manipulate them and the extent in which they will go, bro. The extent in which they will go, bro. You can't put nothing past these people, bro. The extent in which they will go, bro. Anything you can imagine, bro, they will do. Think of the most evil things you could think of, bro. They would do and go to that extent, bro. I know it for a fact, bro. It's real. The extent in which they will go, bro. Can't put nothing past them. Just think of the most evil things you could think of. They would do, bro. Just for that. So all this formality they're doing, suing all these companies, you could see it's literally an attack they're doing against all these social medias, bro. It's the same with TikTok. The whole thing is not because they get people, bro. They're doing it because they can't control it. You see, this is kind of like the first time that TikTok is really like moving how they have moved. Isn't it funny? You see how aggressive it looks? You see how aggressive it looks? This is the first time TikTok is actually moving like that, where they're utilizing their app to expose some shit about them. It looks so aggressive, bro. But in reality, that's what they do all the time on IG. That's what they do with all their apps, on all their media, bro. They spent so much time, bro, and energy doing that, just trying to put everybody down. Everybody that does anything great, bro, they're taking shots at them. Paying people to take shots at them. And it's like, bro, so aggressive. And other people don't do that. So it's so crazy how, with the whole exposing the luxury brands, it seems like what an attack. But you know what's strange about it all? They don't usually do that. That was the first time they actually utilized that app for that, bro. But the whole time they've been fighting and attacking TikTok. Not because TikTok was doing that. And it's like, it's funny how everything they do just expose them. They went, you realize, bro, it's not because they talk about the people why they were trying to like get TikTok to sell. That's not why. You realize that now with everything they're doing. You know why they did that, bro? It's so clear now. It's just because they couldn't control what was being put on TikTok. It's not because TikTok was attacking them. It's just the fact that you can go have an opinion over there that they can't necessarily control or they can't stop. That's why they were mad. That's why they were trying to force them. TikTok wasn't doing that. I realize that now. They weren't doing that, bro. This is the first time they really did it. And you saw, you're just like, damn, this shit crazy, bro. Look at the monster they've created now. Because they're going to keep doing it now. But guess what? That's what they've been doing. You realize that that's what they've been doing. They utilize all this. And that's why they take it matter to court. That's why they're doing all these things, bro. It's not because they care about the people, bro. But they frame it in that way, bro. And now people are going to realize, bro, that's the most powerful tool, bro, is the media. That one thing, bro, they did on TikTok, bro. The impact of that, bro. As far as the way it shook everything up, bro. Atomic bomb, bro. A weapon of mass destruction. The media is the weapon of mass destruction, bro. That's what it's always been about. It's crazy, bro. Now imagine you go on all these apps and you see all this propaganda, and it's been there, though. They've been doing that on IG, bro. They've been doing that on all these other apps and Facebook and all these apps that's owned in the Western world, bro. They've been doing that, bro. When you go there, it's just all this propaganda on everybody else around the world. Now when these people around the world start having their media, their social media, they're going to be, and it becomes a thing. It becomes a thing, bro. But they've been doing it this whole time. So it's hard for me, or I feel like for anybody, to feel away where it's just like, oh, you can't even say that. You can't even say that. Like, I can't. Just because it's like, bro, like, it took them how many years for them to do it once? After you've done it 1,000,000 times. They did it once. You know? It's crazy. But what I was saying was, or what I was trying to say, get into, was how all these African leaders, right? Like, so I see this movement, how it seems like, okay, there's a few of them coming together. They're trying to actually be independent. They're actually trying to be independent, create some type of, I'm thinking, okay, they're trying to be independent. They're trying to liberate their countries for real, not no on paper, but actually liberate their country. And then I realized their countries, and then I realized there's a complex a lot of Africans have, even the so-called leaders that's looking like, a lot of them that's looking like, oh, these are the guys that's going to lead Africa into actually being liberated and actually standing on his own too. And I realized a lot of them have a certain complex where it's like being colonized. And this is how you know, again, Africa was never not colonized. They never left. It's a mental thing, that spell they're under, where it's just like, there's this need they have to be under some type of oppressor, or be part of some type of an oppressor's system, or just be, it's like their mindset is never to be free. It's always to, the highest they could go is to sit next to these people. It's not to be free. And I'm not saying for you to try to sit above them, or for you to try to shit on what they're doing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying their mindset is never for them to just be free. It's always to, the highest they could feel like they could view things to go to is to sit next to them. So you start to realize all these so-called moves they're making, all these things they're doing, is not necessarily for them to gain independence. No. It's for them to be able to sit with these people. That's all they want, bro. And I start to see it. It's like the minute they start making all these moves, people get excited. But at the end of the day, bro, it's never time to get emotional, bro. Because when you get emotional, you need to tone that down, because there's probably something you're missing that you're not seeing. You need to pay attention. They start to expose themselves slowly but surely. It's not even slowly, very fast. Very fast, they start to expose themselves. And you start to realize it's not independence they're looking for. It's not freedom they're looking for. I don't know if it's the fact that they've been colonized for so long that they can't even like fathom the fact that you could be free. Sometimes when someone's mind is so oppressed, bro, when someone is so used to not being free, bro, when you realize some of these people have never felt what it's like to be free ever in their lives. They just think they have. You start to realize, bro, they just move in a way where naturally, bro, it's almost like they're possessed, but it's just habits that's formed on certain people where naturally, bro, they just move in a way where it's just like you don't even have to do nothing to them. And you realize, bro, you've never been free. You never knew what that felt like. You were always colonized mentally, spiritually, emotionally, in every single way. You've been programmed to just move like that, like a robot, without you even being touched, without you even, where you think you're fighting for something. You think you're fighting something. But in reality, you're just fighting to move exactly how you were programmed to move your whole life. And you realize some of these people have never felt what it's like to be free. They've never been free. Because all they fight for, bro, is to sit next to that. That's the highest thing they could think of. We're going to go sit next to them. We want to sit next to them. We want to be over there when they're making decisions. We want to be with them. You're fighting not to be free. You're fighting to be accepted. There's no freedom in that, bro. There's no freedom in fighting to be accepted, bro. That's not freedom. That's not a fight. Because you know what you have to do already to be accepted. So that's not a fight. So they act like they're fighting. They act like they're doing something. They're not doing nothing. They're just fighting for acceptance, bro. They said they turned down an invite from America, but they'll go to Russia. It's the same, bro. You just, Senegal, oh, they're doing this thing. Oh, they want to go be with they want to go be with them. They want to go sit with them. And I'm not saying to sit with them to have a conversation. Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not about, because you could always sit with somebody and have a conversation. A conversation is just a conversation. It doesn't mean anything. It could mean something, but it's just a conversation. As humans, we should be able to have conversations. It's nothing. Now, what that conversation ends up leading to, okay, that's what really matters. But a conversation can just be a conversation. It's just a conversation. But you realize, no. It's like they're looking for a new daddy. If it's not them, it's this. If it's not this, it's that. If it's not him, it's... They're just looking for a new daddy. It's not really independence they're looking for. They're looking for a new daddy. They're looking for a new plug. They're looking for someone else to be under. And the ultimate goal for them is to make it to a certain level where they could sit next to these people will accept them to sit next to them. And people could accept you to sit next to them. That doesn't mean anything, bro. You come sit next. What does that mean? You sit next to us. In fact, that makes them look good. Look, we have the Africans here. They're sitting next to us. We have the Africans here. They're part of the process. Look at them. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, bro. So it's not freedom they're fighting for. They're fighting for acceptance. They're fighting for acceptance. They're fighting for a so-called sit on the table. What does that mean? That's just for the media to... It's a nice picture, bro. It's just a nice picture. You know? That would be a nice picture. See all these African countries, they're sitting there with all these other people, like they're sitting there. Oh my God, look, the world, everybody's... Another 1,000 years go by, another 100 years go by, and then they start complaining. Man, we've been sitting here for 1,000 years, nothing happened. Yeah, you sure have been sitting there for 1,000 years, nothing happened. That's what you wanted, though. That's what you fought for. You got it. They're not fighting for freedom, bro. They don't know what it's like to be free. They don't know. They don't know what it's like to be free. They don't know what it's like to be free. They just want a new daddy. They just want to be... They want acceptance over freedom. There's no freedom in acceptance. There's no freedom in acceptance. To be accepted is like, cool. That's it. It's a nice feeling sometimes, but it's just feelings. Feelings are fickle. That's not freedom. That's not freedom. Just a nice picture, bro. But hey, we live in that era where it's about what looks good on a picture and what looks good on video. It's not about what reality is. Freedom is priceless, man. That's the most valuable thing in this world. It's freedom, bro. It's the most valuable thing in this world. Trust me, it's freedom. It's nothing else. It's freedom. It's freedom.